Well, my name is June, and I was married to Phil Davis. We were married for 57 years. Gosh, that was in 1963, and we were married in 1964 in September. I was like 20 years old when we got married. He was 23. He was tall and handsome. He was like my James Dean. He was just as handsome as he could be when we met, and fun, and we enjoyed each other's company. So he finished up his degree finally at Sam Houston State, but it took him a few years to get there. In the meantime, after our marriage, we had our daughter Lori. She was born in May of 1965.
My name's Lori. Phil's my dad, and he was a passionate person, super creative, artsy. He did so many wonderful things to our homes that that creativity just ran wild sometimes.
Being a traveling salesman like his boss wanted him to be in that regard, where he was go home, leave on Sunday night, come back on Friday night and all that. After his business hours, he would wind up at the bar. Through the years, unfortunately, that turned into a terrible habit, and alcohol became an addiction that has created relationship problems, both with me and our daughter.
The enemy, the devil, works on us, and he comes in and he's really sly, and that's how alcohol grabbed him. I think it was just a gradual decline, and with that job that he had, hanging out at the bars and having a beer with a buddy, sounds great, until that becomes 2 beers and 3 beers, and then it led to something else.
Well, that Monday morning when I got up, I was looking for Phil sitting at the bar, and I didn't see him. So all the way upstairs to the bedroom, and he was on the floor, and he was trying to move and pull himself up, and he couldn't. And I said, Phil, I can't even help you get up now. So I just grabbed my phone. I'm calling 911. You have to go to the hospital now. So they had him in doing an MRI, and then after that, it was a couple of hours, and the doctor came and told us that Phil, the MRI showed he had a stroke on the right side of his brain. And they did they did more tests, but it came to the point that his lungs were filled with fluid, his kidneys were failing, he had to have oxygen full time.
That morning of the 8th, December 8th, we basically had to go up to his bedside and talk to him, and I really did. I was frank with him and said, Dad, your body, it's shutting down, and do you know the Lord? I really need to know that you know the Lord.
That was hard for us to take because we knew he probably wouldn't make it, and that's when I told Anita, and then the next step, Bob showed up.
We're in the ICU room, and I see this man coming in. He has a ball cap on, and I asked Mom, I said, who's this dude coming in Dad's room? Do you know this guy? And she said, he took his ball cap off and his mask, pulled his mask down, and she was like, oh, Bob. And he looked at me and said, you must be Lori. And, yeah, who are you, Bob?
And Bob shared his testimony. He had a similar story about, I think his wife had left him. And he told that story to Phil, and that was so awesome. Lori and I sat there watching.
Bob was a natural. He came in, he treated my dad like he was sitting in his living room, and just introduced himself, and just very graciously shared his testimony that he was kind of a prodigal and came back, and I think it really spoke to my dad, and he just point blank asked him, do you know the Lord? And he prayed the prayer of salvation. Hey, Phil, did you pray that prayer? Do you know the Lord? Now, are you my brother in Christ? And my dad shook his head and said, yes.
And all of a sudden, Phil did this with his hands. He did this, and he did this. And I and Bob shared the message of salvation with him. And I do believe at that point, Phil knew he wasn't going to make it. And I do think with this, he was asking God to save him. He was asking Jesus. With all my heart, I believe that.
If you are a person that's addicted, there's no better day than today for salvation, and God is pursuing you and wants you. And you haven't done anything that will keep you from the cross. I think the story of my family that I want people to know is that it's a story of hope. You know, there were so many times I wanted to give up on my dad. Is he ever going to come to Christ? I wanted him desperately to, as she did, my children, and we just didn't see it. And there were times I just wanted to give up. So I think that's my story, to let others know, don't give up, because my dad's last day was his best day.